Hello and welcome to Always Bored, Never Boring. If you've followed the channel for a while, you will know I love the Epic Encounters range of D&D compatible role-playing kits from Steamforged Games. So I am very excited today to have here a review copy of Palace of the Drow Queen. This box contains 16 miniatures, a double-sided A2 size battle mat, and a 36-page encounter booklet packed with hints, tips and tricks for dungeon masters looking to introduce the dastardly drow to their adventures. But let's not mess about, let's dive into this box and take a proper look at what you are getting for your money. We get the standard Epic Encounters packaging, a sturdy box with hot pink spot gloss on the branding. There is some artwork on the cover, but it's used as a backdrop to showcase the miniatures. And there is something a bit naughty here. You get 16 miniatures, as it says on the bottom left corner of the cover, but the image shows 17 miniatures. There are 5 drow warriors with shields, rather than 4. Removing the lid, first you are presented with the map, which gives you 2 distinct locations to battle the drow. Under that, we have the encounter booklet, which has a very creepy piece of cover art. And then under that is the main attraction, our 16 pre-assembled miniatures in a vacuum form tray. Because the tray holds the miniatures loosely but has a lid to stop them moving around, you can actually store your painted miniatures right in the box, which means if you want to run a drow encounter, you can grab this box off the shelf and you are ready to go. And I really like the look of these drow. They have that classic spiky evil armour thing going on. There are 4 warriors with swords and shields. The pose is quite static, but there is a lot of detail, and I love the fluid curves of the shield. They do look like they mean business, and they are going to cause problems for your heroes. You also get 4 warriors with crossbows. We looked at some bandits armed with crossbows in a previous Epic Encounters video, but they were posed reloading their weapons. These drow are in strong firing poses instead, with feet firmly planted. They have different armour to the warriors with swords, and as soon as I saw their helmets, I was reminded of one of my favourite childhood movies. Next, we have 2 drow whirlwinds. These are more dynamically posed, dual-wielding close combat specialists who are going to leap into the fray and absolutely wreck shop. They wear less armour than their allies, but the armour they are wearing has a cool spider motif that makes it look like they have a giant arachnid on their backs. That's really creepy. There are 3 Onomancies. Onomancy is predicting the future through dreams, and these magic users are like watchdogs. They protect drow cities by monitoring people's dreams, and while they don't engage in physical combat, they have a wide range of spells and can play with people's minds. According to the adventure book, using these powers causes their physical bodies to wither, but I'm not sure that concept is adequately reflected in the sculpt. They just look like cool magic users to me. Everything up to now has been on 25mm bases, but now we get to the coolest enemies in the set, the lizard riding cavalry. You get 2 of these and they are on 50mm bases. I love them. They have the same armour and shields as the foot sloggers, but have these powerful mounts on which they charge into battle. My biggest problem with these is they will be difficult to paint because the lizards are attached to the scenic bases and there isn't a lot of clearance to get a brush in there. I think Steamforged Games should look at making it so the models can be unplugged from the bases to make painting easier. Last but not least, we have the Drow Queen on a 30mm base. Many moons ago, I wrote a trilogy of children's novels called The Legend Riders. The main villain was a necromancer who could control dead bodies by placing these spider-like creatures inside them. The creatures would animate the bodies, and 4 legs would protrude from the back, allowing them to scurry up walls. Naturally, I quite enjoy this design for the Drow Queen. But that is it for your miniatures. Moving on, we have the battle map. I have to say, I think the art is a little dark on this one. It's a little bit more difficult to see what's going on. But this side has a docked ship at a pier leading to the gates of the Drow city. On the reverse, you have the interior of the Drow palace. Nice enough, but it seems quite sterile. I think more could have been done to bring this environment to life. We will learn more about these maps as we go through the adventure booklet, which, as with all of the Epic Encounters booklets, is an incredible source of useful information. Lots of stuff in here to get a dungeon master's imagination fired up. And I am going to flick through it quickly, so there are spoilers ahead. If you are a hero, you may not want to watch this bit. We start with an introduction which covers how a dungeon master should prepare for a drow encounter and covers some general advice on scaling the difficulty of the encounter for parties of different levels. Additional advice on scaling is also included with the stat blocks later on, making it very easy to customize this adventure to suit your current campaign. Then we have a double page spread of the cover art in full colour, which leads directly into some background information on the drow. While there is nothing stopping you from using this encounter kit to run an adventure with the traditional drow of Dungeons & Dragons, Steamforged Games have come up with an alternative background, in which the drow are actually constructs of the elves, mechanical beings imbued with magic and covered in a layer of pale skin. They were created to win an ancient war, but were subsequently shunned for being unnatural, so they now exist in the dark, fostering a hatred for the surface world. There is a page of myths and legends about the drow, some may be true, some aren't, and it's all just food for thought for DMs. I particularly like the idea that the Drow Queen is a manifestation of the drow's pain, a creature existing at the heart of a web of deceit and hatred, spun through countless years of evolution and shunned by the world. Once you know what your drow are, you need to know why the heroes have encountered them, and that's where the page of hooks comes in handy. There are 5 ideas you may want to use to kickstart an adventure, or you could combine them, or spin one off into a totally new idea. Next we have our first encounter at the docks, in which the heroes arrive at the Drow's underground city by way of a ship travelling the Underland River. The rules here assume the heroes are going to fight their way into the city, having arrived as stowaways, but there's plenty of scope here to run the encounter in many different ways. Personally, I don't think fighting your way in is the best idea. The rules run through some interesting features to help set the scene, and then gives a list of enemies that are waiting on the dock, plus reinforcements that may arrive should blood be shed. After all, this is a heavily fortified city. Following this, the booklet gives information regarding the 4 most important locations on the map. There is the ship, which is difficult for anyone who isn't a drow to navigate. There is the jetty, where combat is particularly deadly and may result in characters tumbling into the icy waters below. There is the grand door, reinforced with strong locks and magical wards. Heroes with enough strength and magical knowledge may be able to break through, but perhaps there is some easier way to make the door open. And then there are the docks, where an Oneiromancer lurks, ready to peer into the minds of anyone approaching the city. If the heroes can deal with that little problem, and the pressing matter of some giant lizards, there may be some useful treasures stashed in the packing crates here. The booklet then covers the aftermath should the heroes use force to slay all of the drow. Having won this first battle, what will they do next? There are several suggestions for ways in which the heroes could progress to the next stage of the adventure, which is the Palace of the Drow Queen. This is where the heroes will encounter the Queen and her bodyguard. The heroes begin in a webbed entrance hall. These webs are actually the manifestation of the Drow goddess's influence on Earth, and a means by which the Queen can communicate with her goddess. As such, the webs are deadly to the touch for most mortals. The merest touch could lead to paralysis and necrotic damage. Furthermore, that touch will open a hero's mind to the Drow Queen, granting her advantage on all of her attacks against them. The next point of interest is the staircase, where the heroes find what appears to be chandeliers. These are actually dried fetuses, which have powerful properties to protect the Queen, and which hint at a greater threat the heroes may yet encounter, and which we will be looking at in a separate video. This map also features a reception chamber, where there are books charting the history of the Drow. There is also a negotiation table, where little negotiation takes place, but where the Queen will often feed on live prey. Some interesting details here include the fact the chairs are made out of corpses, twisted into shape and then bound in spider silk, and there are magical sigils under the table that weaken the resolve of anybody sitting there, making them easier to manipulate. Finally, outside there is a fountain. Brave heroes may choose to drink from the fountain, but who knows what may happen to them. If the heroes are victorious, they have a chance to loot the palace, but they won't find much for their trouble. And make no mistake, it will be trouble. The Drow are quite formidable, as you can see when we move on to the stats section of the book. One of the cool things here is, as I mentioned before, there are comprehensive notes on how to adjust these stats to suit your needs. These stat blocks are presented assuming the heroes are somewhere around level 5 to 10, but for each enemy there are tweaks to nerf them or boost their combat prowess. That sort of thing is so helpful for a DM. Here are the stats for the Lizard Cavalry. Naturally, they spit poison. I bet you would have put money on that. And then we have the Oneiromancers. They have so much magic at their disposal, and they are wreathed in dreams, making it difficult for a hero to focus on them to attack. Next are the Drow Whirlwinds, who are so fast they will always go first in initiative order, and they make 4 attacks with their poison swords. Finally, we have the Drow Queen stats. She is, as you would imagine, an unpleasant foe. She is challenge level 10 and worth 5,900 experience. She wears an exoskeleton that means she can never be surprised and which grants her additional attacks in melee. And that's it. We get a picture of a Dryder statue, and then we get the credits. Overall, this is more of exactly what you expect from Epic Encounters. If you like the Epic Encounters range, you are going to love this set. If it's not your thing, I doubt this set will change your mind. But honestly, I think these are such good resources for Dungeon Masters. You get a good amount of varied enemies, more than enough to fill a themed dungeon, and they are pre-assembled and based ready for use straight out of the box. You get 2 different areas to explore, and you get stacks of hints and ideas in the booklet. And of course, this isn't the end of your Drow adventure. If you know anything about the Epic Encounters line, then you know that each new theme is explored with 2 box sets, and the death of the Queen is not the death of the Drow's deadly ambitions. The Queen dies smiling, her teeth painted red by blood bubbling in her throat. She raises a hand and points it at you, words half forming on incarnadined lips. You feel a dreadful pressure seize you, crushing you, and the environs of the palace shimmer and fade. The Spider Goddess does not appreciate the murder of her chosen, and now you must face the wrath of her blighted children. The Dryder screams for your flesh. But that is for another day. And that is it from me for now. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please consider pressing the like button. If you really like this video, please consider subscribing if you don't already do so. And hopefully, I'll see you all again very soon. Bye bye everyone. Bye bye.